Alrighty. Hi, guys. I'm Counselor Jay, and wanted to go through what I think is one of the most important questions you'll run into, and it's going to be your major choice and whether it matters or not. So I ran across this Prepscholar post by this lovely lady, Christine Sarakas. I think she did a really good job, actually, of breaking things down. But I do have something I think I initially disagree with, and it's her first answer right here. The simple answer is no. Does it affect your admission chances? In the vast majority of cases, your intended major does not affect your chance of being accepted to a certain school. So she does give the qualifier in the vast majority of cases. I think that's where in particular I'd have a disagreement depending on the type of student you are. So long story short, if you are the higher the rank of colleges you're going for, the more your major choice will matter. The lower the rank of colleges, the less it'll matter. Um, I've seen that throughout the last maybe decade and a half that I've been advising students. Um, and if I had to give a measure, if you use U.S. News rankings, for example, I'd probably say um, it's probably around rank 40 or 50 is where you'll start to see kind of the flipping point. In other words, if you are aiming for a top 40, 50 school, that's where the major choice begins to matter more and more. Um, and so, yeah, let's go through what she has to say and let's see what I can say about it. Um, there are some instances where your major choice does impact admission chances. This typically occurs with large public universities with multiple departments and limited slots for each major. UC system. That is absolutely correct. In fact, if you wanted to see which major choices are hard to get into, the phrase that they use is something called impacted or high demand majors. In other words, these are major choices that are going to be extremely competitive just because they have a lot of applicants going into this when they apply each year. And you could see it right away. It's from UC Berkeley, LNS, Letters in Science Advising. Look at this. They even tell you alternatives to high demand majors. They're straight up telling you, yo, guys, some major choices are so competitive. Here, please choose some other options. And you'll start to see kind of some things that stand out. Like for computer science, you can go into data science, cognitive science, or applied mathematics. And there should be an initial theme to that you'll start to see that normally when you are running up against a competitive major, it's competitive because it's, to a certain degree, because it's broad and because it's not as specialized or as niche as some of the other choices. Sometimes the argument is actually it's the opposite. You go even broader than computer science. I'd like to think of applied mathematics as kind of like the big umbrella category within which you have things like computer science and other things, statistics, algorithms. But yeah, coming back, absolutely agree. UC systems for sure. I think there's going to be a major issue. She does come into something really interesting right here, though. If you're applying as a communication major and they already filled all their communication major slots, it's possible you could be denied. Right? So think about it this way. When you go into a high school, you're in a competitive high school, and there are 15 other students just like you that are trying to apply as bio pre-med. Then you've just made it really easy for the school because they just pick between the 15 of you and see which ones they want to get the best out of. Similar case here, if you are applying for a major that's really competitive and there's not enough slots, that's kind of something you can't always predict necessarily. You won't know if you're going to be the one, for example, business student chosen out of the 15 or the 2 or 3 business students that they're allowing from one high school out of the 15. It's hard to tell that. And it's not just going to be your grades and test scores that will give you the right of way. Normally, students who have enough of the academic profile, the difference comes down to your essays and I think like the depth of your major interest. However, even in these scenarios, your intended major will only be a factor if you're in the cusp of being admitted. If you're a strong applicant who schools want, they'll generally be able to find you a place. 100% agree with that as well. Like, you could be a little bit off in your major, but if they think that you're amazing, I don't know, you had like an internship with President Obama and you did amazing things, man, then obviously they're not going to care as much as to whether you chose sociology versus, socioeconomic or economics. it is going to come down to your essays for the most part. So that's where maybe we can have another video about how to do essays for Y majors correctly and effectively. Absolutely agree with what she's saying here. There are certain caps. There's limited enrollment. Think about it, guys. They can't just choose 500 business majors from one district, because that would make things really difficult in terms of the equity between where they select. They have to be fair and pick from the Midwest to the East Coast and try to maintain a relatively fair breakdown of where they get their students. But in addition to that, imagine if they decided to pick up 500 business students, but for the year they only have classroom sizes for business econ, maybe 1 or 2 or 11. Those introductory classes, they only have maybe a room for 200. So right off the bat, you have to realize it's a supply and demand kind of logistics game for the admissions for the universities as well. To that effect, I absolutely agree. There's going to be caps for certain major choices. I love this. Does choosing an obscure major improve your chance of getting accepted? So I get this a lot. But Jay, what if I chose like gender studies? Right? No, not that I'm trying to be offensive or in any way, but gender studies is not the prototypical norm of what parents will recommend you to apply for if they want you to get a good career, salary, a job. So to that effect, gender studies is probably the least chosen type of major choices. And so there's a reality to the fact that some major choices are obviously more popular than others. And if you choose a less popular choice, the argument is that you increase your chances of getting in. And to a certain degree, that's right. To a certain degree, it's not. And I think she explains it really well. If you choose a major choice that's so obscure, then sometimes it's to the point where like the major choice is dying. It's no longer going to be available for the school. It's antiquated, it's vestigial. They're going to kind of remove it from their course offerings in the near future. Then you run into a problem there. So the goal here is not necessarily to choose the most weird or the most unsought after major choice, because that also could be a pitfall. Absolutely agree to that. The solution provided is what they say, we call it this a spike. If you want to be a journalist, for example, we recommend high-level English classes, participating in newspaper, even debate. So choosing a major and just being very good at it, right? Going very deep into it. They call it a spike. I call it a major vision. It's kind of the same thing. It's a way that you need to stand out. This is where most students, I think, fall short. I think most students are given advice that is very, very vanilla, like, be president of 3 clubs and blah, 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 when oftentimes it might even just be better to just be president of 1 club and just go super deep and specialized and pre-professional in your experiences towards that major choice that you're aiming for. She also brings up a great point about how sometimes it's better to pursue a major choice, even though it's difficult, choosing that difficult major choice because your activities really show that you can shine in that area, that you are deeper in your understanding and experience in that major choice than other students. She mentioned some competitive majors. Absolutely agree. This is the most popular, I'd say, amongst Asian Americans today, specifically Chinese males. I think that it's cultural. A lot of the meta shifts in what major choices take the first, second, third most popular spot. Computer science, always a big one. These 2 areas are great examples of showing a major vision to stand out. Maybe I can go into another video where I show examples of students in the past I've worked with that had amazing business visions for their major specializations. There are less competitive majors, as mentioned. Sometimes they're school specific. You may not be able to get this information all the time because some of them don't announce this information. We're getting this because it's a public institution, Berkeley, UC system. But yeah, I want to show you something else in terms of increasing your chances of getting in. The higher the rank you go, the more I think your major choice matters. So here's what I have. It's college transitions, Columbia admissions data strategies. If you scroll down, the most interesting part for me here in relation to today's video is this. Categories for first major 2023 Columbia grads intend to study. So when you apply for Columbia, you're going to be asked for a major choice. In fact, I'd say like 90% of schools will ask you for a first choice and a second choice. There are a couple schools that will only ask you for one. Berkeley comes to mind. And then there are some schools where they don't ask you for specific majors, but more like general categories. So are you more interested in biology and sciences, etc.? I think Harvard had something like that. But yeah, if you see the breakdown, 31% natural sciences, arts and humanities 22, engineering 23, and look at this undecided at 1%. And I think the summary underneath is very, very apt. The figure that jumps out here is the extremely low number of undecided students. This tells us that Columbia is primarily looking for students with a strong academic focus. Of course, it also speaks to the professionally focused applicant pool. And again, if you look through enough data, you'll realize that the higher the rank you go, the more this is going to be the reality. That the higher you go, they're not looking for a student that's in the shallow end of the pool. They're looking for students that are at the deep end of their specializations. And you got to be able to show that through your activities and through your essays. So, when I'm coming back to the initial answer, the answer is no, that your major choice affects your chances. I think that needs a reevaluation. I absolutely believe that your major choice is one of the most important decisions you can make when you're applying for top 15, even top 30, 40 schools. Just think of it this way. Imagine if you did amazingly academically, extracurricularly at, let's say, math, sciences, and business, and out of nowhere you choose to go to a sociology major or an English major, and you have no background in English. You're getting straight B's in English throughout your high school career. Like, obviously, in that case, that major choice will matter. Now, I chose a very low-hanging fruit, straw man argument there, but at least with that extreme, we can be clear that, yes, the major choice you choose kind of shapes how I'm going to expect things about you, how I'm going to then evaluate your activities and your academic profile. There are many instances where, for example, you can be a little weaker in something like the humanities and English and history grades and activities, but show an incredible specialization in math and science. And that often, if you lean towards a math or science major, can be the difference maker. So I hope this was helpful. Long story short, I think major choices absolutely matter. In fact, the higher the rank you go, the more that it will matter. Not all majors are created equal. You can try to find what the easier ones or harder ones are, but it's kind of obvious. Just ask around, ask your peers, see what the parents are talking about. And usually it just comes down right now to things like business, computer science, pre-med bio, health-related major directions. But yeah, I hope this was helpful.